Hi, I'm Peter Knight, one of the Ban Lynch coaches here at Melbourne Golf Coach. Today's Week in Golf Tip video is about hip movement. Now there's a few things we're going to cover and it might answer all those questions about how your hips should actually move during the swing. The first thing we're going to look at is from side on. When I set myself up and I address the ball, notice how my belt line is now tilted forward. When I swing the club back to the top of my swing, what I'm looking to do is have that belt line still tilted forward the same amount. So as I've gone back to the top of the swing, my hips haven't changed their orientation as I've turned back. That's like the hip plane or hip movement. The second thing is I want my hips to turn centered. Now, I need to turn my back to you. I'm sure that's okay. If you imagine I've got a belt loop right on the base of my spine here, when I swing the club back, I want that to stay centered. So you can see as I swing back away from the target, if I move this way, that point has moved to your left. If I keep this point centered, when I turn back, you can see that it hasn't moved. Now, if I make that same movement that I did with my back to you, but from front on, let's have a look at what the video would look like, because that's what you're going to see if you're monitoring your movement by looking in a mirror. So if I keep that point centered, when I turn back, you'll notice that my hips have turned. My right leg doesn't move one way or the other. So my hips turn centered and my right leg appears to be on the same angle. My left is different. Here's where things get a little bit different and we start interpreting things about hip slide and how the hips movement. If I keep my hips centered from the top of my backswing and back down toward impact, it appears that my hips move to the left. And there is a little bit of a slide, but it's mainly about keeping my hips centered. So from the top of my swing, it appears that my hips are sliding forward, but only to a point where my left leg is vertical. So the things that we've covered here, first of all, is that my hips are going to turn back and turn down on the same plane. The second is that my hips are going to turn centered, and our reference points for that are that when the club swings back, my right leg appears to be on the same angle it was at address, and then when I swing down and through, my hips appear to slide forward so that my left leg becomes vertical, and then of course it'll stay that way. If you practice those hip movements, you'll find that your balance will improve, and it will also have an influence on everything above that. Now that means my upper body, my arms, my hands, and the club movement. So getting the hip movement right is essential because it's going to drive a lot of the movement in your golf swing.